Nansen Etutemak, Tia Wheatley, Nisigasun. Welcome to APTN National News. On Tuesday morning, ahead of the emergency debate on wildfires in the House of Commons, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs held a press conference in Winnipeg. Chiefs of First Nations in northern Manitoba joined virtually to urge the province and Canada to send emergency equipment to their communities. APTN Sierra Bettens has more.
Could this have been prevented? My general feeling is that most of it could have been prevented if our nations were equipped with the proper equipment.
For 13 days, Manitoba Kuwait-Noe Ogamaganik Inc. Grand Chief Garrison Satie and First Nations leadership across the province have brought thousands of wildfire evacuees to a place of safety. But impacted communities have told Satie there's not enough emergency and fire prevention equipment on the ground.
They want to save their infrastructure. They want to protect their communities, but they don't have the equipment.
Gordy Bear is a chief of Matthias Cologne Cree Nation, or Papatawagan, where all members, except some 50 essential workers, have been evacuated.
Nobody has given us any kind of equipment. Like I said, we have a pile of garden hoses here and cots. We don't need those cots. We have beds at home. If you give us equipment, we'll protect ourselves and we'll stop the fire.
Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says communities have been begging the province and Canada for equipment that has never arrived.
We know that some communities don't have the fire trucks. There's no evacuation transport, no water supply systems, limited communication tools. As Chief Bear said, they're using hoses that are as big as a garden hose. How do you fight wildfires with a garden hose?
Pimachikamak Cree Nation Chief David Monias joined virtually from his community where nearly everyone has been evacuated. He says First Nations-run emergency services are needed.
We can do a better job, and we have done a better job than anybody else. You know, in Cross Lake, we have a community council, mayor and council. We don't play around with jurisdiction or the boundaries and so forth. Right away, we join forces.
All leaders urged the province, Canada, and the Red Cross to end the jurisdictional disputes and promptly deliver emergency equipment to northern communities.
We're standing by fighting over jurisdictional issues. This is a shame how this wildfire has been coordinated from day one. This should not have happened to our people. And I am asking Canada to wake up and help our people.
Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
In an update Tuesday afternoon, the province of Manitoba said the Canadian Red Cross has now registered more than 14,300 people from over 5,400 households evacuated due to the wildfires in the province. This includes people from approximately 2,400 households on behalf of Indigenous Services Canada and 3,000 households on behalf of the province of Manitoba. Meanwhile, in Saskatchewan, wildfires have prompted evacuations in more northern communities, and it's becoming a challenge to find places for evacuees to stay.
We have some challenging days ahead of us as we aren't through this, and the weather doesn't appear to be changing in the near future. To date, we're probably approaching in the neighborhood of 15,000 people that have been evacuated.
Officials in Saskatchewan say they are working with other provinces to find places to house evacuees as the uncontrolled fires show no signs of stopping. As wildfires continue to rage in Manitoba and Saskatchewan for a second straight week. As a response, Minister of Emergency Management Eleanor Olszewski held a press conference in Ottawa on Tuesday. Evacuations due to the wildfires have meant some First Nations people have been transported as far away as Ontario because of a lack of a nearby place to go to. The Canadian military has also been helping with evacuations. Olszewski says the government will match dollar for dollar donations to the Red Cross for first assistance in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Beyond this, she was unable to say what immediate supports the government will offer.
There will be additional relief that will be provided to individuals, families, and communities with respect to not only assisting them with the effects of the wildfires, but also with respect to making sure that communities are more resilient in the future. So there's a number of different kinds of funding mechanisms that can be employed.
Justice Minister Sean Fraser once again found himself talking about free, prior, and informed consent outside caucus Wednesday morning. On Tuesday, Fraser said he believes duty consults stopped short of giving First Nations an actual veto over development projects. A day later, he told reporters this is not the conversation First Nations and government should be having in the first place, and what both parties should be talking about is the benefits development can bring when government and First Nations work together. Here's some of what the Justice Minister had to say.
The UN Declaration, when it comes to free, prior and informed consent, is about establishing a process based on respect and partnership as between the Crown and Indigenous peoples. I think sometimes the conversation falls into a frankly dangerous trope that paints a false picture of Indigenous peoples as being anti-development somehow. In my experience engaging with Indigenous leaders, their perspective is one of wanting to have their rights respected and wanting to share in the benefits of development.
Yesterday, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with the provincial and territorial premiers in Saskatoon to discuss strengthening Canada's economy. As APTN's Rachel May reports, there was consensus on working together for national economic unity, but not much detail on how exactly they would do that.
We discussed a wide range of potential nation-building projects, including, and this is far from exhaustive, the Western and Arctic Corridor, which, amongst other things, connects energy, critical minerals, and trade infrastructure, the Eastern Energy Partnership, critical minerals pathways, which include a range of critical mineral projects that premiers can speak to, the next stage of nuclear, from uranium to SMRs to large-scale nuclear, and a series of infrastructure investments for export diversification from ports to rails to last-mile roads.
The premiers began arriving at TCU Place in Saskatoon yesterday with their priorities in their pockets. To be considered of national interest, projects had to strengthen Canada's autonomy, provide clear economic benefits, have high success potential, and support clean technology. When it was all over, neither the Prime Minister nor the premiers would say which projects would be moving forward. Prime Minister Carney said that was simply because there just wasn't enough time to discuss each project without overshadowing others.
There is a long list of projects that bring the country together, diversify our markets, make us more resilient, create good jobs and growth, have very good prospects of Indigenous partnerships and beyond.
Premier Danielle Smith says she looks forward to partnering with the federal government and the other premiers to help Alberta's oil and other natural resources support Canada's goal of being the strongest economy in the G7.
You have to address issues, of course, of Indigenous ownership and equity partnership. You have to address issues, of course, of emissions and other environmental issues. But that's what I heard, is how do we have an all-of-the-above approach? And I think that's very encouraging.
The press conference ended with Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew addressing the ongoing wildfire crisis affecting the prairie provinces.
I want to say thank you. And it's in these moments of emergency and in these moments of crisis where you see the true nature of Canadians shine through. And I think that we need to be proud of that and to take a moment to thank folks for stepping up in the way that they have through our state of emergency.
The leaders of Canada's Indigenous groups were not at the meeting, but the consensus among the premiers and Carney was that whatever nation-building projects went ahead, they must do so with Indigenous input. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
The Assembly of First Nations Quebec and Labrador Chief Francis Verreau-Paul went to Quebec's National Assembly to provide testimony to a parliamentary committee. It's Quebec legislation intended to modernize the forest industry, but some contesting it say it violates UNDRIP. Verreau-Paul was joined by chiefs from Lac-Simon, Pessamut, and Pigua-Manouj. He said before the committee, forest management must be carried out alongside First Nations in order to ensure a sustainable future for all. Verol Paul says a committee of First Nations leaders has been set up to meet with the Minister of Natural Resources and Forests, Maite Blanchette Vezina. Protests have erupted in response to the bill, which have included blockades and sending eviction notices to logging companies. After the committee, Minister Blanchette Vezina told reporters the government won't tolerate blocking of roads, but the minister is willing to work with the AFNQL on amending the bill.
Je pense que c'est important de travailler ensemble. Et c'est la volonté qu'ils ont. Ils souhaitent coécrire un projet de loi. Ben, en fait, pour moi, l'endroit, il existe. Et je retends la main pour eux, c'est-à-dire, venez vous asseoir, on va pouvoir travailler ensemble sur des bonifications du projet de loi. Ma porte est toujours ouverte.
The NDP government in British Columbia has passed Bill 15, the Infrastructure Projects Act, which is aimed at fast-tracking infrastructure projects like building more hospitals, schools, and potentially more oil and gas projects. However, the First Nations Leadership Council and Union of BC Indian Chiefs says they were not consulted on this bill and say that this goes against the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Rights, which BC adopted into law in 2019. Grand Chief Stuart Phillips says this latest move by the BC government could destroy the relationship between the BC government and First Nations in BC.
What we heard obviously is from the political side of the issue, and clearly the First Nations have said that we're not going to allow our rights to be swept aside, our land rights, our water and human rights swept aside or trampled on. That's simply not going to happen. Furthermore, we're stating to the government that DRIPA is the law and it cannot be swept aside. We will not tolerate that.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Do you expect Canada and the provincial governments to honor treaty rights when planning resource projects? Yes, no, not all projects. And you can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/polls to cast your ballot. Time for a short break. When we come back, we take you to Australia for an Indigenous play and some fashion tips. Stay tuned. Pitigwe. It's called The Black Woman of Gippsland and is based on real events of the time. The production is currently being performed in Narm, Melbourne, and tells of the catastrophic ramifications for the Gunai stemming from an ill-fated rescue attempt by white settlers.
The cast of The Black Women of Gippsland have been rehearsing for months.
Nobody hears or sees the white woman for 3 whole years.
The play is a modern mystery about a woman trying to unravel the truth of a story from the 1830s.
There were numerous shipwrecks along the really dangerous Gunai coast, and it was said that a white woman was washed up on the beach and had been either rescued or captured or taken hostage, and that she was taken in by Gunai people.
Who is this yellow woman? And if she wanted to be rescued, why did she run away?
After apparent sightings in the 1840s, an expedition party made up of white men and Aboriginal troopers descended on the area. The woman was never found, but the consequences for the Gunai were immense.
There were massacres and dispossession of country, and very sadly, our first Aboriginal death in custody.
It does pique your interest in history and how it's actually told, and it's always through the lens of, the coloniser.
Andrea James has been working on the play for around 6 years and says she was very definite about what she wanted to achieve with the production.
Wanted to hold Melbourne audiences to account, to have them understand, how Melbourne was involved in that story, but to also unravel the myth, to disempower the white man's version of that story.
The Black Women of Gippsland is on at Melbourne South Bank Theatre until the end of May.
Where they see
Makili Siren, NITV News.
the Gunai.
A rising star of Indigenous design is showcasing her work at Australian Fashion Week in Sydney. Designer Leandra has unveiled her latest collection at this year's event that also features some nifty tech. Each garment is embedded with technology that tells the story behind the designs no matter where they go. Reporter Bronte Charles went along to find out more.
It's a landmark moment here at Australian Fashion Week where Indigenous designer Leandra is not only showcasing fashion but reshaping how we share and protect culture through technology. Her label Leandra has just launched the first Indigenous collection embedded with blockchain and NFC technology, turning each garment into a living digital story. A small chip sewn into every piece links buyers to the design's cultural background, sustainability journey, and most importantly, the voice of its maker. And standing with me now is the woman behind it all. Sis, how do you feel to be here at Australian Fashion Week?
Oh, I feel really good. I think I've had a few people being like, oh, you're so calm and chill. But you know what? I have an incredible team that have worked so hard for the last couple of months to help bring my vision to life and creatively tease out some of those points. So I feel so excited.
And can you tell me how technology is transforming your designs this year?
Yes, so we've partnered with Own Authentical, who are an amazing tech company that authenticates. We're using them in a way to authenticate the brand and to enhance the way that we tell our story in a digital sense. But the silver lining to that is not only that we can have that communication with our customers because it's through NFC and blockchain, it certifies that when you're wearing and engaging with one of our pieces, now you know it's an authentic Leandra piece.
Each garment is ethically and sustainably made and now carries a verified digital record, ensuring that culture, authorship and integrity are always front and centre. It's a bold step forward in fashion where technology meets tradition. From Australian Fashion Week, Bronte Charles, NITV News.
Time for one last break. When we come back, we talk with an Ojibwe photographer about her latest work. Be right back. Starting on the East Coast, St. John 17, Charlottetown 21. Kuujjuaq 8, Nain 10. Chibougamau 23, Quebec City 23. North Bay 22, Toronto 28. Big Trout Lake 10, Kapuskasing 15. Churchill 2, God's Lake 10. Winnipeg 16, Dauphin 16. North Battleford 13, Regina 14. Uranium City 5, Buffalo Narrows 9. High Level 22, Peace River 24. Edmonton 21, Calgary 19. Kamloops 26, Campbell River 21. Dease Lake 16, Smithers 22. Rock River 10, Dawson 17. Norman Wells 14, Fort Simpson 25. Tuktoyaktuk 2, Inuvik 6. Bakers Lake 8, Chesterfield 7. Clyde River 1, Iqaluit 2. The Luminato Festival is kicking off this week in Toronto and is running through to the 22nd. The festival features theater and musical displays across the city. It will also have Indigenous-led work with performances and photography. We spoke to Ojibwe photographer Nadia Quanabins earlier this week. She specializes in natural light photography, with her work being featured at the festival in an exhibit called Night Shifts. Thank you for joining us, Nadia. Can you tell us how you got involved in this year's Luminato Festival?
Luminato, yes, I got an email late last year from Adam Barrett, and he was wanting to do a special project for the festival this year around people who work at night, which is a little far from what I do. I wake up very early, so it was a little bit of an adjustment going from early morning sleep and then the nighttime shifts, which is what the project is called, Night Shifts. So yeah, it was a really beautiful process.
What gave you the inspiration for your piece, Night Shifts?
What gave the inspiration?
Yes.
It really came from Adam, my project manager, Adam Barrett. And I thought it was really an interesting project because I always challenge myself as a photographer to keep challenging myself and, you know, put yourself, I'm always put in different situations all across. I've done concerts, events, conferences, week-long conferences. I go all over the country. So it was really nice to just spend, you know, I think we started in late February, shooting documenting, photographing everyone. And then the last shoot was early April. So it was a real month of just really getting into just this real shift in my schedule, and just highlighting all of the workers who keep Toronto moving at night. So just the challenge of it was really what intrigued me. Yeah, so I said yes right away because I do like challenging myself.
What do you hope festival goers will get from your exhibit?
I think just realizing, I mean, the show, my project in it, my piece in the whole festival overall, because there's so many different types of installations that go along with Luminato. There's theater, music, all types of different projects and showcases. So for me, what really got me was just when we all go to sleep and we're all winding down for bed and bedtime, our evenings, there are people who are just getting up and starting their day. So I really like that aspect of it, and it really did pull me out of my usual routine. So just that sort of the dynamic around it was really intriguing to me. So.
Yeah, you said it yourself. You're a busy woman. What's coming up next for you?
Oh, I have. I've had several solo show openings this year. One is coming down, and another one opens this week as well in Campo River, at the Campo River Art Gallery. So that's coming up. Luminato launches on Wednesday, so we'll get ready for that. And then I have a special project with the Toronto Poet Laureate that's in the works as well. And my position with the city comes to a close at the end of this year, so I'm going to be launching my legacy project with the city of Toronto upon my,
Sounds exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday, June 4th. From all of us at APTN National News, Egasi, Kitom, Kawapamitinanaw.